Hades Horror Files.
I didn't believe in Ouija boards because I didn't believe in anything I couldn't explain. Ghosts, spirits, hauntings, those were stories people told to make silence feel less empty. That was my logic anyway. Then I started working at the Cedar Pines Hotel, and I stopped thinking like that pretty quickly. The hotel sat on the edge of a mountain town, tucked into a forest that looked wrong even in daylight. Too dense, too still, like the trees were deliberately keeping something hidden. It was an old place, built in the 1920s, renovated a dozen times, patched up more than it was rebuilt. It wasn't fancy, but it had charm in a tired kind of way. Peeling wallpaper, brass elevators that groaned every time they moved, hallways that stretched just a little too long when you were tired. I worked the night desk shift. Mostly it was quiet, check-ins that never came, phone calls that rarely rang, and long stretches of sitting under dim lights listening to the building settle. That's how I met the others. Mason worked maintenance. Lena was housekeeping. And there was Oliver, the other night clerk before me. He was the one who told us not to go into room 312. He didn't explain why. He just said, some doors shouldn't be opened twice. Then he quit the next day. That should have been the end of it. But curiosity has a way of growing in quiet places. It started on a stormy night in late November. The kind of storm where the wind doesn't just blow, it pushes against the building like it's trying to get in. Rain hammered the windows, lightning flashing every few seconds, turning the lobby into a flickering series of shadows. There were no guests checked in. No calls, just me, Mason, and Lena waiting out the shift. That's when Lena showed up behind the desk holding a wooden box. I found this in storage, she said. Inside was a Ouija board. Not a cheap one. Not the plastic kind from a toy store. This one looked old. Real wood. Carved letters. A planchette that felt heavier than it should have been when I picked it up. Mason immediately laughed. Absolutely not. Lena rolled her eyes. It's probably just a prop from some event years ago. But I noticed something she didn't mention. There was a faint scratch mark across the board, like someone had dragged nails over it repeatedly. And underneath the board, written in faded ink, were 3 words. Don't ask questions. We should have stopped there. We didn't. We set it up in the back office, mostly because it felt safer than doing it out in the open lobby. Mason kept saying it was stupid the whole time, but he still sat down. That's how these things go. Nobody wants to be the first to leave. We turned off the lights, used only the emergency lamp in the corner. The storm outside made everything feel louder than it was, like the building itself was breathing. We placed our fingers on the planchette. Lena tried to joke at first. Okay, spirits, if you're here, do something dramatic. Nothing happened. Mason smirked. Told you. Then the planchette moved. Not much, just enough to feel like a mistake. It slid to yes. The room went still. Lena blinked. Okay. Who did that? No one answered. Mason lifted his hand slightly. I'm not touching it. Neither was I. The planchette moved again. Slow. That word appeared on my skin before I even understood it. We all leaned closer. Are you here? Lena whispered. The planchette moved. Yes. A long silence followed. Then Mason asked, What's your name? The board didn't hesitate. H-E-R-E. Then it changed. No name. The emergency light flickered once. Outside the office, something creaked in the hallway. Slow. Wood bending under weight. We all looked at the door. Nothing there. The building settled again, but the temperature dropped. Not gradually, instantly. I remember seeing my breath. Lena laughed nervously. Okay, that's not funny. The planchette moved again. Go to 312. Mason immediately stood up. Nope, we're done. But Lena was already looking at me. Room 312. The room Oliver warned us about. We weren't supposed to go there. That alone made it worse. because now we had been told to. The hallway lights were out when we stepped into it. Only the emergency exit signs lit the way, casting everything in dull green tones that made the carpet look damp even though it wasn't. Room 312 was at the far end. The door looked normal. Too normal. Like nothing about it should have mattered. But the air in front of it felt heavier. Mason refused to touch the handle. So Lena did. It opened easily. Inside was a standard hotel room. Bed made, curtains closed, bathroom light off. But it was freezing. And there was something on the desk, a second Ouija board, exactly like the one in the office. Lena whispered, "That wasn't here before." Then the door behind us closed, not slammed, just slowly shut. Click. Locked. Mason pulled at it immediately. "Okay, that's not possible. I didn't hear a lock turn." The bathroom light flickered on by itself. Inside, the mirror was fogged, even though no one had used the shower. And written in the condensation were words, "You asked." The planchette from the desk moved on its own, dragging slowly across the wood. We didn't touch it. It spelled stay. Mason started backing away. "We're leaving, right now." The TV in the room turned on. Static filled the screen. Then a voice came through it. Not clear at first, just noise, then words. "You opened it." Lena grabbed my arm. "That's not possible. That's not even plugged in." The voice got louder. "You asked questions." The bathroom door creaked open slightly. Something dark moved behind it, not stepping out, just watching. Mason threw himself at the hotel room door. It didn't budge. From the TV came a new sound, not static, breathing, slow, right behind us. I turned around. The mirror now reflected the room slightly differently. There were more of us in it, not physically, just shapes standing behind our reflections. Lena whispered, "Don't look at it." Too late. One of the reflections smiled, but none of us were smiling. The planchette on the desk began moving faster now. It spelled, "She is still here." The room lights flickered violently. Then everything went dark, total darkness. No emergency lights, no hallway glow, nothing. And in that darkness, something started knocking inside the walls. Not outside the room, inside it. Slow at first, then faster. Mason shouted, "We need to break the door!" A loud crash followed. Something hit the door from the hallway side. Hard, then again and again. But the door wasn't the problem anymore. The problem was the floor, because it started feeling wet. Cold water seeping up through the carpet. Lena screamed. The bathroom light turned on again, and this time, the mirror wasn't fogged. It was clear. Inside the reflection, someone stood behind us. A woman, soaking wet, hair hanging over her face, mouth slightly open, water dripping steadily from her chin, and she was smiling. Not warmly, like she was remembering something she enjoyed. Mason turned slowly. There was nothing there. But in the mirror, she was closer now. Lena grabbed the planchette from the desk and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and cracked. Instantly, the knocking stopped. Everything stopped. Even the water. Silence hit the room like a weight lifting. We didn't move for a full minute. Then the door unlocked on its own. Click. Mason didn't hesitate. He ran. We all did. The hallway was empty, completely normal again. Lights working, carpet dry, no storm sound outside, like nothing had happened. We never spoke about it after that night. Mason quit the next morning. Lena transferred to a different hotel within a week. I stayed. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to prove it was nothing. Maybe I needed to believe it ended when we stopped asking. But about a month later, I was working the night shift alone when the phone at the front desk rang. No caller ID, I answered. At first, nothing. Then static. Then a voice. A woman's voice, soft, calm.
Do you still have the board?
I didn't answer. The voice continued.
You asked questions.
A pause. Then, quieter.
She is still here.
And behind me, from the empty hallway leading to room 312, I heard knocking. Slow, patient, like it had been waiting for me to come back alone.